Hello again and welcome to your yoga practice. Today, the focus on balancing poses, and in particular, using our awareness of weight distribution, and also a strong foundation to do some forearm and arm balances. So a lot of power in today's class that comes from a place of groundedness and connection to what you're feeling in your body. So again, I recommend you have a block, if at all possible. It'll be an interesting prop to use for some of our balancing poses. And if you don't have one, that's okay. You can do it without, no problem. But again, grounding is going to be essential to find your connection to the earth that will help stabilize you as we balance. So we'll start in a grounding breath awareness exercise in any position that is comfortable for you. Feel free to try it seated in any seat that is stable, but also feels easy through your knees and your hips. If you sit cross-legged, try to sit in such a way that your hips are at least as high as your knees. So your knees are a little bit closer to the earth. You might want to sit up on that block or a couple blocks or even a cushion, even a folded blanket if you have that available. You can also sit with your legs out long and the knees bent. Just find a seat where you can lift your spine, lift your heart, and then relax your shoulders, your head, and your neck. And pay attention to how you're feeling in this moment, in this seat. And close your eyes if that feels comfortable, or just maybe soften your gaze and lower your eyes so that the back of your neck can extend nice and long, and the chin and the front of the neck also nice and parallel to that back side, chin parallel to the earth. So we're looking for an easy expression of length and space in the upper body, and a grounded feeling of support and rest in the lower body. Play with those elements in today's class. You can just scan your body in whatever pose that you're in that feels stable and comfortable. Scanning from the top of your head, past your forehead and your eyebrows, all around your eyes, all of the small muscles of the face. And using your awareness to soften any areas of tension or any big sensations, any very strong feelings you might notice in your body. Just notice them for what they are. And then continue moving your awareness down the body, past your neck and your shoulders, observing if you're carrying any hard feelings, any physical tension in your chest, in your back. And if you do come across any of those very strong feelings, feel free to rest your attention there for a little while, breath or two. And then notice if you can let go of any of that resistance, any of that difficulty, and especially any of that reaction that it may cause in your thoughts or your emotions. Feel free to just observe it a little more neutrally, perhaps becoming a little bit more interested in what you feel in your body. And also notice how that may change with the next breath before continuing your scan through the rest of the body, getting into the lower body, the hips, and eventually the legs, until you bring your awareness all the way to the bottom of the body, through your roots, and into the bottom of your feet, the tips of your toes. Once you finish your body scan, bring your attention to your natural breathing in this moment. And resist any urge to change, to control your breath. And again, just observe how it is right here, right now. Always breathing in through the nose, whenever that feels possible, whenever that feels comfortable. And breathing out through the nose if that feels free and relaxed. Or another way to encourage your body to relax a little more is to breathe out with a big sigh, making a sound with the breath. And notice if there's anything else you're holding on to that you can just release with the breath, if it doesn't serve. As you notice your natural breathing in this moment, in this pose, notice where in the body you feel the breath the most. We're just going to rest the attention on that part of the body, wherever it is, and notice the natural rise and the easy fall of your beautiful breath. If you also noticed on your inhales that you've maybe shrunk a little bit, or that you feel like you could sit up a little bit taller easily, then lift your heart, lift your head. And again, see if you can find some more of that stability, some more of that support as you let the weight of your body rest through both of your sitting bones down into the earth. And at the end of your next exhalation, take your time to get the air all the way out. You could even squeeze the belly in to get that last air out. And we're going to start to deepen the breath, lengthen the breath, and fill up as much space as you can do so comfortably with each inhale. And exhale, taking your time so that each exhalation is smooth, soft, and complete. There's no rush here. Just let the breath spontaneously lengthen and deepen with the next inhale. Maybe a gentle pause before releasing the breath out. A continuous, easy flow, uninterrupted. You continue like this for the next couple inhales and exhales. And really take your time so that your exhales are at least as long as the breath in, maybe even a little bit longer. Again, squeezing your navel in to the back body can help get that last old air out. In this way, you will eventually come to your maximum comfortable breathing rhythm for today, for this moment. So if you're not there yet, exhale again completely. And on your next inhale, take all the time you can enjoy for 5 long, deep, and unrushed breaths. Exhaling quietly, calmly, with your full attention resting in the breath. the end of your fifth full exhalation, you can release this practice, deep belly breathing, and just return to your natural, easy breath. Take a moment again to notice how you're feeling and how you're breathing right now, right here. When you feel ready, gently opening the eyes again, bringing your arms over the top of your head. Exhale, hands back to the center of your heart. Again, connecting inwards to develop a stronger connection with everything around you. Lovely. So start with just some easy palm rubs here. Use both of your hands, or rather the inside of your fingers, the inside of the palm, to push against the inside of the other hand, so that you're creating a lot of warmth here through friction. Pushing firmly, but never fighting yourself or struggling here. Just use as much force as feels good and as much rubbing as you need until you generate some warmth. You want the inside of the hands to feel quite warm, and we're also slewing off some old skin cells we don't need anymore. And then you're going to cup your hands so they're rounded and bring the base of your hand, bring the palm all the way over your eyes. Be careful not to push on the eyes, but just rest the hands so that you can enjoy complete darkness over your eyes, sitting up tall again, and relaxing your shoulders, especially if you've noticed any tension that tends to accumulate there. So let your eyes relax in this warm, dark space, keeping your spine extended. And you continue resting your attention here in a neutral observation. You might be noticing that you still see things, even as your eyes pause in the darkness. And this is a really healthy rest, especially because of our eyes do most of our processing of external information. We take in so much through the eyes. It's really important to give them a break. And again, if you do see things like shapes, colors, movement, or maybe just kind of patterns of lighter and darker areas, notice how those change for the next few breaths. Notice again how you're sitting, especially through your sitting bones, if you're sitting upright. And notice if your weight is equally distributed in both sides of your pelvis, both of those sitting bones that have contact with your support. Rather than, again, trying to force or change something, see if you can just notice it a little bit more closely, a little bit more neutrally, if you have that tendency to shift your weight one side or the other. And you may notice, as you pause and observe, that things tend to shift and balance themselves out without you having to do a lot about them, just by becoming a little bit more aware. When you're ready, you can release your hands back down to your legs, gently open your eyes. As we come onto hands and knees, to start waking up the physical body with some movement, getting ready for some more balancing work. I'm going to start on hands and knees, quadruped position, where your shoulders are aligned right over your wrists. So look down at your hands, middle finger in the middle, or maybe a little bit out to the side, but all of the other fingers spread out wide so that you can see the color of the mat underneath or in between all of your fingers. And your knees are right underneath your hips. We'll start with cat and cow pose, inhaling to arch the back, keeping your shoulders relaxed and looking up. And then as you exhale, we're going to broaden the shoulders as you round your back. So
Squeezing the belly up as you drop the chin down. As you inhale, it's your tailbone that leads on the bottom of the spine, lifting back and up. Look up. And as you exhale, you drop the chin to the chest. Let the head be heavy as you get really round. Inhaling and exhaling. This is a very stable position. We can already start to do some of the work of balancing, again, by turning our attention more inwards. So you might close your eyes while you're doing cat and cow stretches every day as a way to kind of activate more of that inner vision, connecting with everything that you're able to observe and feel on the inside. Lovely. I really like this round motion. Feel free to add this in or just continue with your cat and cows, a couple more. As you inhale, you're going to squeeze a shoulder on one side over towards the hip, and then come back into that arched back position at the end of your inhale. As you exhale, squeeze over to the other side, and then begin moving into that rounded position. So just try a couple circles like this, inhaling, squeezing one side while we lengthen the other and come back to arch. And exhaling, squeezing the second side, lengthening, and then getting round again before switching that up and moving in the other direction. So a big part of balancing is symmetry and just noticing the body's natural tendency to want to balance things. So notice if one direction or one side is very different than the other. We'll come back to a neutral position when you're ready, shoulders over the wrists, knees underneath the hips. We're going to lengthen the right leg back. Notice your balance now with these three limbs supporting and the right leg extended. On an inhale, engage your core and lift that right leg up. We're into our first balancing pose on two hands and one leg. If this feels very stable, option to bring the left arm, the opposite arm, also up into balancing cat. So you're connecting to that support, in this case, primarily through your core, pulling the belly in as you push that lifted leg back. You can also imagine like someone is shaking your hand with that lifted arm, but your shoulder is still connecting. So the shoulder is relaxing into that upper back support. Neck is nice and long. Feel free to stay here for the next 3 breaths, or the option to take a minor bind here by bending that back knee and reaching for the back leg. Try to grab below or above the ankle, so on the foot or on the leg, rather than putting a lot of pressure right on the ankle. Engage to that core and maybe take it just up into a little bit of a back bend. Soften your gaze, deepen your breath, and on an exhale, come out. And inhale, lengthen the spine again before returning to that neutral quadruped, hands and knees position. Just pausing to notice and feel. Second side when you're ready, lengthen the leg. Feel how that changes the way you distribute your weight. And especially if you feel like you're leaning to one side more, see if you can bring your weight evenly distributed on both hands. Lifting the second leg up and engaging that core connection. If this feels really sensitive on your knee, you could also use some padding underneath the knee or fold your mat up under the knee. Lengthen that back leg as you lengthen the whole spine. Especially notice the length, but also the curves in your spine. And pull into that center support, navel in, back of the neck long. Muscles around your eyes, nice and soft. You can stay here for another 3 breaths, or again, option to take that bind as we come into that flying tiger version of the balancing cat. A lot of core support here, a little bit of back bend, and a lot of deep, easy breath. Maybe looking up, shoulders stay relaxing in the back. Exhale to come out. And inhale just to neutralize, stretch it out, and settle down, hands and knees. Great stuff. So when you're ready, we're going to come up from here by tucking the toes, and on an inhale, lifting your hips for downward facing dog. For the first downward dog of the day, or any time of the day, it can feel really good to bend one knee and stretch the other leg, stretch the heel back and down. Again, you're not looking to force anything. Just a little bit of movement, a little bit more stretch in the back of the leg by bending one leg at a time. And then come to a stable resting position in downward dog. I want you to notice the balance in this pose. There's lots of elements here. So the arms are balancing the support of the legs. Each leg parallel to each other. Arms equally supporting your weight. So notice if your body weight, you feel it more in one shoulder and the other. See if you can bring that a little bit more back to center. Maybe soften the knees some more. Soften your elbows as you lift the hips up. And soften on your exhales. See if there's anything you might be holding again in this pose that you don't need. Bend your knees as you're ready to walk your feet forward, coming into a standing forward bend. Inhale, come up halfway and lengthen the back. And then exhale, fold forward. Uttanasana, an easy forward bend. Now, really important here that you do not hyperextend your knees. So you don't want your legs 100% straight. Keep an easy bend in the knees and bend them enough that you can touch the floor. So this is also a balanced pose. You want to see how evenly you feel your weight in both legs, in both hips, as you release your upper body a little more. So the legs are very active, even though there's a bend in the knee. And you can imagine your knees are pulling up towards your hips, even as your heels are pushing down into the ground. See if you can spread your toes again. Notice that symmetry, those parallel alignments of your legs with each other, with the length of your mat. Come up halfway again, belly in to support the length of the back as you reach your heart forward. And exhale, fold forward. Maybe you can do it a little bit easier this time. Now we're going to come all the way up and take your time for this. This could be in a very slow roll, up in a nice way, or you can bend a little deeper and with a long spine, firm support, lift your way up and stand tall. Again, no rush. Standing in your mountain pose with your arms by your side. Hands facing forward, biceps forward. Notice the balance of your body in a simple standing pose. So part of that is noticing, again, symmetry. Notice your ears balanced with each other on both sides of the head. Ears right above your shoulders. If you can relax the shoulders in the back. Notice if one shoulder feels a lot higher than the other, and rather than trying to really pull something or push and forcibly, which is a very aggressive way to work with the body, see if you can work a little bit more with your awareness and your breath. So notice the way the hips balance right under the shoulders and right over the knees. Easy knees, but still very strong legs to encourage that lift up. While your heels, right underneath your knees, reach down into the ground. Lovely. So we're going to do first standing leg balance here. And for this, I'd love you to try it with a block or anything that's approximately block Size blocks shape. So it could be a very big book, for example. And you want one that is big enough that you can get your whole foot onto it. Maybe the toes can hang over if they're relaxed. You can also do this without a block. You're just going to have to work a little bit more. And so we're going to have one leg standing while the other leg lifts. And the block is just going to give you, or your support will give you a little bit more space for that. And we're going to focus on the hips. So coming up, if that's available, standing on one leg and balancing your hips. Now notice how this position feels compared to that previous two-legged standing pose. And see if you can achieve that same sense of stability and ease that you had just a moment ago. Now the tendency here is we're going to over-relax that hanging leg. So let's try to bring the leg up into the body so that both hips are balanced again. You can rest your hands on your hips. Find something that's not moving to look at. Keep the knee easy in the standing leg, but the leg is strong. The heel reaching down as you lift up from that leg. Option to add your arms in a little cactus arm here and really feel like that lifted leg is pulling up into the body as you extend the whole upper body, extend through the crown of your head. Wobbling is good, and if you fall out, that's great. That's a good feedback for your balance. Just come back in. Nice. Engage that core for one more breath, lifting up, and then exhale, come on down. Pausing on both legs, equal grounding here, and just take a moment to pause and observe. How does that feel for your balance? This one is actually surprisingly funny and interesting for me. And I'm going to try now my second leg. So you could do that also on the floor if you don't have to block. Find a stable position where the whole foot has support and the toes can be relaxed. Spread the toes of your standing leg. And then bring that lifted leg up so that both hips, again, feel balanced. They feel equally lifted from the floor. It's a little bit harder if you're standing on the floor. It'll help to engage your core. And again, lift your heart as you lengthen your spine. You can keep your hands on the hips for a little bit more support or out wide. Option to take cactus arms here. See if you can lift that upper body a little bit more while still reaching down through the heel of that standing leg. Notice how you feel on both hips again. Soften your eyes. Again, watching something that's not moving will help you focus the balance. One last breath to lift up. And then exhale, settle down. So that side is definitely more wobbly for me. And I hope by taking the time to do that slowly and mindfully, you can notice any imbalances in your body, that your body is always working to harmonize. So we'll stand one more time in a neutral mountain pose. I'm going to do one of my other favorite, most basic balancing poses that also opens up the hips and activates the legs. You start with that first leg, and then just start with your lifted legs, swinging it forward and back. This is a really great warm-up if you're going to do some more active cardio work, especially things that involve a lot of leg movement, maybe running, cycling, or whatever activity you enjoy. And the goal here, again, is to feel really stable through your standing leg. Soften your face, lifting your upper body while letting that moving, lifted leg swing as freely as you can. Feel free to get as big in your swing as you want, but if you notice that takes you out of your stable place, you might slow it down. Breathe deep. Take 2 more breaths here. In general, the bigger the base, the wider your arms when we're balancing, the easier the balancing pose, bringing things in. More narrow will increase the challenge, as will, again, closing your eyes like we explored a little bit before. Feel free to shake that standing leg out if it needs it.
And again, pause in your neutral position to compare before getting ready for the second side. Find your focal point, called a drishti. Make sure you're looking at it softly so you can relax also the muscles around your jaw, your chin, also your tongue. And with deep, natural breaths, go ahead and let that lifted leg swing freely while you continuously ground down through the standing leg. And this is definitely my more mobile side, and it's my less stable side. So I keep my leg swings on the second side much smaller, also maybe a little bit slower, and wider arms for a little bit more balanced support. Still try to lift up through the upper body. Keep that standing knee easy. It's a gentle bend. We'll finish with 2 more full breaths here. Slow it down and come back to a grounded position. Tadasana, your mountain pose. Lovely. Okay, so we're going to take some of that activity and warmth you might be building and feeling for a couple of sun salutations that will prepare us for our peak upper body balance work in the second half. So on an inhale, reach up, look up, and exhale, bend from your hips, forward bend. On an inhale, the right leg will lead. We'll pause. Exhale the left leg back to plank or plank on your knees. And if you're still warming up, it's nice to lower the knees for that first chaturanga. So really feel the length of the whole body and the stability through the shoulders. Point your toes away as you come down to the floor and push your legs down so much your knees come up. And on an inhale, lift your body forward and up. You don't need your hands. Make sure you're not forcing your way up. Exhale, chin to the chest. You can come through hands and knees or directly back up to downward facing dog. Inhale the right leg into the body, forward between the hands. Exhale the back leg to meet it, forward bend. Inhale, with one breath, we rise up. That roll can work, or also a long back, strong legs. Exhale, back to the mountain. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale the left leg, and exhale the right, pausing in plank, before inhaling for some length and exhaling to lower down chaturanga. Release. Inhale, an easy cobra. Relax those shoulders, relax your face. Exhale, a stable, balanced downward dog. Inhale the leg up into the body and set it down as soft you can. Exhale, forward bend. Inhale, rise up. And exhale, settle down. Inhaling, we extend. Exhale, we soften and bend. Inhale, the right side leads. And exhale, the left side follows. Option to hold the breath here for a little more concentration and warmth. Or just take another breath and then release on an exhale all the way down. Point your toes. Inhale, cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale right. And exhale left. Inhale, come on up. Exhale, settle down. Second side in. Second side out. Inhale left. Exhale right. Pausing
or taking another breath, or just finishing that breath to come all the way down. Really take your time, breathe fully, breathe freely. Inhale, left side as soft as you can, or help the foot get between the hands. Exhale, release the second side. Inhale, coming up. And exhale, settling down. Wonderful. Just one more leg sequence and 2 balancing poses. Get maybe a little bit more warmth in the upper body for that. So come from mountain with the arms up. And exhale, fold forward. Coming back into plank, either one leg at a time or maybe hopping back. And lengthening here. On an inhale, lift your hips and settle down, downward dog. Inhale, we're going to bring that right leg forward, and then exhale, settle it down, and lower the back foot down. The left heel reaching the ground. As you inhale, coming up, warrior one. Now both hips want to align forward, but your back leg might need to be more wide for your balance, or classically in one line with that front leg for a little more balanced challenge. Relax the shoulders into your upper back support, and then extend the arms. That back heel driving back and down, the front knee right above the ankle. And then we're going to take a bind here, grabbing your arms behind your back, rest them on your lower back. And again, soften your shoulders, relax your elbows, even pulling your elbows apart. The hands stay together, but you're trying to broaden your upper back for a little more breathing room. And then folding over that front leg, humble warrior. Before coming up on an inhale. And then lengthening that front leg for pyramid pose. This is one of my favorite balancing poses because it's so basic. The legs in one line, heel of the front foot either directly to the heel of the back foot looking at the corner of the front of your mat, or again, you can also widen your gap, your stand, if you need a little more support. And we're going to keep that front leg long, but you can micro bend the front knee if that feels better, especially in your back and your hips. Lengthen the upper body. And here I have about 1.5 foot lengths between the feet. You can always bring that back foot a little bit more forward for a little bit more challenge. And then fold over that front leg. Hands can stay on the hips or on your shins, but we're not putting a lot of weight through the hands. If you have a block, you can also use that. It doesn't really matter how far you bend forward. What you're looking for is length in the whole spine, the whole upper body, and a really strong, grounded feeling through that back leg. Stay here for another breath. We're going to come out with an easy bend in the front leg. So bend it easy and step the back foot forward, coming halfway up. Exhaling, folding all the way forward, forward bend. Inhale, rising up. Exhale, easing down. Getting ready for the second side again. Coming into a forward bend. And then back into plank and downward dog. Inhale that left leg up and then bring it forward, right between your hands before bringing the back foot down. Again, the line can be very narrow. You can bring that back foot directly behind the heel of the front leg. And then inhale, come up. In warrior one, both hips aiming forward, but that back leg can be open wide if that's going to make this balance more interesting. The right balance of support and challenge. Lift that upper body, maybe relax the shoulders or contrast by pulling them up and then relaxing them down. Front knee right over the front ankle. Back heel reaching back, the little toe spreading out wide and reaching down. Try a little bit more chest openers for the work that's coming next, bringing the hands behind your back. If you can remember, interlace your fingers the other way. So now the other thumb is on top. Soften your shoulders, relax the elbows, and start to pull the elbows away from each other as you lengthen your neck. Keep your tailbone reaching down as you pull the belly in, the pubic bone up, lift the upper body, and exhale, fold forward. You can rest on that forward leg or let the head fall by the inside of the shin. My shoulders tend to shrug here, so I'm actively relaxing them into the upper back. And then starting to move the hands towards the back of the head from there. One more deep breath. And then on an inhale, activate the core support. Come on up. And go ahead and release the hands as you step about halfway forward for pyramid pose, or about 1.5 of your foot lengths is usually a nice balance between a very wide pose and a very challenging narrow pose. The back foot can also be, again, right in that line following the front foot or open a little more wide. Both legs are long here, and it's the back foot that's going to stabilize, the heel reaching back and down. Spread your toes. Lift your heart again, and on an exhale, fold from your hips over that front leg. Maybe you'll come down halfway. Use a little more core here, and always an option to micro bend that front knee. If you do rest your hands on the leg, make sure you're not adding pressure to the knee, and very little weight to the leg, or use some props like a block again for support, or maybe your knee comes, or your nose all the way to the knee. One more breath here, maybe even closing the eyes to challenge the balance. Turn your attention inward. Come out by softening the front knee and stepping forward, halfway up. Exhale, fold forward. Forward bend. Come all the way up. And exhale. Tadasana, mountain pose. Good stuff. All right. So we're going to reach up again one more time. Lengthen the whole body. And then exhale, fold forward. If you're at the front of your mat, you might want to walk back closer to the middle or even the back 2/3 of the mat. From this forward bend, open your feet out wide as the mat. And you can angle them just a little bit to the outside. Lower your hips until your hips are the height of your knees. And your knees are following the middle line of your foot, second toe. So you can stay here in this version of a squat, or if it feels good, lower your your sitting bones all the way down into malasana, classic yoga squat. A block can be a great support here also, underneath your pelvis. The goal of this squat is to lengthen, again, the upper body, while using the outside of the arms to add that stability against the inside of the knees, inside of the legs. If your feet don't reach down to the ground, that's fine. And if you want to play with your balance, you could also bring your hands up to center, or even close your eyes. Taking 2 more deep breaths here. before lowering the hands down. And we're going to come out the same way we got in. I want you to remember this transition. Coming back to forward bend, coming to about the middle or just behind the middle of your mat. And standing forward bend. So we're going to come down very similar as we get ready for crow pose. So your legs can be as wide as the mat again, or maybe a little bit closer to center, closer to where you are in the standing forward bend. And you come back into a squat with now your arms right in front of the knees. And go ahead and lift your seat until you can get your hands on the ground. Big hands here. So middle finger again in the middle, or maybe turned a little bit out to the side. And you're going to use the knees pushing against the back of your upper arm as you come onto your toes now on both feet. Maybe this is the version of crow for you today. Extend the upper body, pull into your core. Maybe you can start to walk the feet closer together. Maybe come onto the toes of both feet or just the toes of one foot and alternate. Remember, deep, easy breaths. Maybe today you'll take a little bit of flight. Feeling pretty wobbly here, so I'm going to reset my base. Maybe even a wider base here. Full squat, hands down, and play with it a little bit. Feel free to come up again, or start just by bringing the toes together. Come out slowly, or if you come out more quickly, use your core to catch yourself, and then settle down. Roll out the wrists, or just bending them in the opposite way we usually do. Can be a nice way to soften through the hands and the wrists. We're going to come back into that standing forward bend, feet hip distance apart. From here, lowering your seat and coming up onto your toes and the balls of your feet for our second and our final peak pose, coming into a side arm balance. So for this one, you want to bring, if you're coming to the left side, that left elbow to the left hip. The right elbow is on the outside of that left knee. You're going to need to connect into the core, pull the belly in, lift your upper body, and you shift your weight over to the left side until you feel like you can get both legs off the ground. Arms a little slippier. And pausing, coming back into crouch position on the toes or an easy forward bend. Feel free to play with that one again. So elbow again right above the hip or just right to the inside of the, or to the leg part where the hip ends, and the other elbow on the outside of the knee. Ooh. Good stuff. When you're ready, we'll try that on the other side, and I'll show from the same side so you see what the legs are doing. Coming up onto toes and the balls of the feet, lift your upper body, and then twist to the other side. Really make sure you feel that connection between the elbows and the sides of the leg, or where the leg meets the hip, before leaning over, activating your core, and slowly just bringing the legs up. Good stuff. One more time. When you're ready, coming back into standing forward bend. Coming to the middle of the mat if you're not there already. Before we walk our hands forward, the feet back, downward facing dog. We'll clear the body with a little vinyasa, inhaling, coming forward. Exhale, lowering down. Inhale, one more cobra. Exhale. Downward facing dog. Since we've been doing a lot of that arm work, and if you have the blocks available, you might want to try a little jump through. Having the blocks under your hands just gives you a little bit more space to work with. Lifting your hips, pull into your core and float your legs forward and come into a seated pose. Or just feel free to walk forward, sit back down, and make sure you have the room to come all the way back down to the ground. Letting your feet rest down as wide as the mat. Let your knees come together for support. And just take a few moments and let your body say, ah. When you feel ready, bringing your feet together, knees bent, knees together, and crossing your legs. The right knee comes on top, arms out wide like a big T shape, back of the head resting on the floor, but the neck should feel long and free. As we start cooling down with an easy twist, letting both knees fall over to the left side. As you turn your gaze, if it feels good in your neck, over to the right. For a little added resistance or just a reference point, you could bring that left hand to the outside of the right leg. Again, you're not forcing anything. It's not important if the knees touch the ground, but you want to feel some connection to the ground, especially through your upper right shoulder. And let your whole body, with an exhale, kind of melt, kind of dissolving into the earth. And see again if you can use your breath to release any tension you don't need. Coming out on an inhale, engaging the core and then lifting the legs back up. Unwind. Pause in neutral. Take a moment to just notice and observe. When you're ready, legs together, and now the left knee comes on top. Be careful if your blocks are very close, you might need to move them. And depending on how you feel through your hips and your seat, you might want to scoot your hips over to the left to give yourself a little more room to let the knees fall to the right. When I do that, I notice I came so far, my left shoulder came off the ground. I bend the knees a little more, a little closer to the body, until I can really rest the whole upper body on the ground and the back of the head. And then let the head gently roll over to the opposite side, hand resting on the outside of the top leg. Feel the whole length and also now the twist through the spine. You can feel into each vertebra, each articulation, and using your exhales to soften, to release. On your next exhale, releasing completely before inhaling and engaging the core to lift the legs. Come back to neutral, resting on the ground. Good job. You have arrived. Before we settle into our final relaxation pose, you might want to give your neck and the area behind the ears just a little massage, pushing into the sides of the neck and maybe pulling some of that tension from the head and neck down into the rest of the body, where we have more space and also more connection to the ground to let some of that tension melt into the earth. If you like that, you might also like to grab your sitting bones in your hands and kind of pull them away from each other. So again, broadening your base, letting your pelvis spread out as wide as feels good, so that we use this wide support to let the weight of the whole body settle easily, settle comfortably into the floor. And you could just stay here. This is a wonderful version, a very supportive version of Shavasana. You could also bring the feet out wide and let the knees touch again, tenting your legs together. And if everything feels good in the lower back, you might want to take the classic version, stretching your legs out one at a time. Let your legs be at least as wide apart as your hips, or even wider than your mat, if that feels good. Arms by your side, head and neck right in the center. Sometimes nice to inhale and lift the upper body to draw the shoulders together, and then rest the support of your body on top of those shoulder blades. Nice way to encourage the heart to soften, to open. As you encourage your whole body with each exhale to release all tension, just let it go. Taking the time again to scan over your body, this time starting from the bottom, from your toes and your feet, moving with your attention past the ankles and into the legs, just noticing, feeling, making any mental notes of your observations before continuing up, and pausing where you need, where it feels interesting. And see if you can use those exhalations to release a little bit more, release a little easier. When you finish scanning your whole body up through the chest, through the shoulders, through your neck, and all of the head, relax your whole body into the support of the earth. Closing your eyes, and once again inviting your whole attention inwards, letting go of any external distractions, and bring your full attention to rest in the rise and fall of your natural breath. I invite you for the next few moments to just settle in to stillness. You should notice any sensation that makes you want to move or fidget. And just notice that. Take another breath. And see if maybe the world of internal distractions, as you continue resting your attention, will also soften and release. And anytime something does take your attention, and you feel your mind has left this present moment, left this body, or your breath, just notice that too. And as soon as you've noticed where your attention has wandered, gently bring your full attention back to the next inhale. And let it rest there with every exhale. When you're ready, slowly bring your attention back to this moment, to this body. And as you're ready, start to deepen your breathing. With these longer, fuller inhales and the increased energy, oxygenated blood that you're increasing circulation, the body will just start to feel lighter. You'll feel like moving. Start moving in any way that feels right, feels easy. If you like to stretch the whole body again, you could bring your legs together and keep your seat reaching down to the ground. From your center, reach out in all directions. And exhale, soften again, and release. Before bending your legs one at a time and hugging your legs into the body, give yourself a big squeeze. Give yourself all of your love. Finish by rolling over onto your side. Just pausing for a moment in the fetus position. Head supported by your arm. And then help yourself up with your arms and hands into one last stable and comfortable seat. Closing your eyes, keeping them closed. And then bringing your hands together in front of your heart. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your practice. Have a beautiful rest of your day, full of balance and harmony. Namaste.